Today, we start discussing one of the most interesting topics in our beginning worship piano course. It is also one of the most difficult, but it will make your playing sound amazing when you actually practice it and apply it to songs. So today is an introduction to chord inversions. We will be learning chord inversions today, what they are, how to play them, and then in a couple lessons, we will be actually using them in songs. So let's look at what chord inversions are. I had alluded to this a couple lessons ago, but let's say we have a C chord. Our C chord has three notes, C, E, and G. But we don't have to play our chord in this position. We can play it like this. Again, we have the same notes, C, E, and G. It's just voiced differently is the technical term we use. It's voiced differently, the order of the notes is different, but it's the same three notes. We can also take those notes and group them differently, and we can play it like this, G, C, E. Again, it's still a C chord, it's still the same three notes, it's just ordered differently. So what we're going to do today is we are going to learn the different positions of playing each of these chords, and that is called the different chord inversions. So for C, our chord inversions are like this. We have C. Those are our different chord inversions. So let's discuss how to play those. So we start with our C chord in root position. This is called root position. The normal way we typically play a chord is root position. And then to make our first inversion, we take the bottom note, which is a C, and we move it up to the top. And then I'm going to switch my hands here. And so this is the first inversion of the C chord, E, G, C. Now I'm playing that with fingers 1, 2, and 4. So play that with me, and let's use fingers 1, 2, and 5. I'm playing it with fingers 1, 2, and 5. So play that with me. And now to find our second inversion, the next position for our chord, we again take our bottom note, which is an E, and we flip it to the top. So our bottom note becomes the top note, which is an E, and we have G, C, and E. So let's review those. So this is root position. First inversion, take our C to the top. Second inversion, take our E to the top. And then we can, once again, take the C and take the G and move it to the very top, and we get root position up here as well. So root position, first inversion, second inversion, root position. Again, root, first, second, and root. Now it's very important, as you practice your chord inversions, to play the correct fingering. So the correct fingering for the root position chord is 1, 3, 5. And then when we get to the first inversion, the correct fingering for this is 1, 2, 5. This is the only one that uses 1, 2, 5. So I'm going to be very picky and ask you to please use 1, 2, 5 when you get to this inversion. And then second inversion goes back to 1, 3, 5, and then root position at the top is 1, 3, 5. So basically, everything is 1, 3, 5, except for the first inversion, or the second chord you play in the pattern, which is 1, 2, 5. So I want you to learn your chord inversions, and by that I mean be able to play them all the way up and all the way down like this. So those are the chord inversions for C. And now we can do that for the other chords we've learned as well. So let's take the F chord. We have an F here, and we can do the same thing. For first inversion, we move our F up here. We get F in first inversion. For second inversion, we take our A, move the A to the top, and we get second inversion. And then we do it one more time, move the C to the top, and we're back to root position. So your chord inversions for F should sound like this. And then one more. And for this one, let's see, I'm going to move this down a little bit so that you can see it on the diagram there. So these are our chord inversions for G. So for G, we do the same thing. We start in root position, Then for first inversion, we take the G, move it to the top. So this is first inversion G chord. Then we take the B, move that to the top. We have second inversion G chord. And then we take the D, move it to the top, and again we have root position. So our chord inversions for G major are Before we discuss actually how to apply chord inversions today, I want to briefly introduce you to the 3 minor chord inversions. And those are D minor, E minor, and A minor. So the principle is exactly the same as for the major chord inversions. So for D minor, we take our bottom note, move it up, take the bottom note, move it up again, take the bottom note, move it up again, and there you have your chord inversions for D minor. So for D minor, you have this. Again, it uses the exact same fingering as for the major chords. So 1, 3, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, and back down. And then for E minor, we have the same thing. Bring the E up, bring the G up, and bring the B up. So for E minor, and then our final one is A minor. So it's the same principle. Bring the A up, bring the C up, and bring the E up. And our chord inversions for A minor are Okay, so once you have practiced those, now you are ready to work on applying chord inversions to songs. Now, as I said in a previous lesson, this is one of the most interesting and also one of the most challenging aspects of the beginning worship piano course. But once you learn this, once you learn what you will learn in this lesson right now, it will make everything a lot easier and it will make your playing sound a lot better. So let me show you how we do this. Okay, let me change this view here to this. Okay, so let's say we start with a C chord, and then if we want to change to an F chord, we're used to moving our hand all the way up here. So C to F, C to F. And so in the songs we've been playing so far, our hands have been having to move a lot to reach the chords. So if we have a C chord, then an A minor chord, we have to move all the way up here, down to an F, down to a C. And so our hands have to move a lot. So chord inversions are going to help your hands not have to move as much, and they're going to make your playing sound amazing. So let's look at a little bit of theory behind the chord inversions. So I have my little whiteboard here. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, let's say you start on a C chord. So our C chord is going to be C, E, and G. Okay, now our next chord that we're going to go to, let's say we go to an F chord. So we can play an F chord. Let me change to a different color marker here so you can see this. So we can play our F chord all the way up here on F, A, C. Sorry, my markers aren't super dark today. So we can play an F, A, C up there, but that's a long way away. So what if we play a chord inversion instead? So we could also play the F chord here. We could play C, F, A. Or we could play it down again. We could play it here. We could play A, C, F. So there are 3 different places on the piano that we could play this F chord, 3 different inversions that we could use. Now, which one is correct? There is no correct answer. It's fine to play it in any inversion. But what I want to propose to you today is that your playing is going to sound the best if you use what we call the closest inversion. So let's say I'm starting with my C chord, C, E, and G. Which of these 3 inversions, this one, or this one, or this one, is going to be the closest to the C chord that we're already playing? Well, it's not going to be the top one because the FAC, that's a long way away, so our hand is going to have to move a lot. The middle one is pretty close because it already has a note in common. It already has the C in common right here. So our hand isn't really going to have to move that much. It's just going to have to move just a little bit to reach the CFA. If we play this third inversion, which it's not the third inversion, it's technically first inversion, but the third one listed here. ACF, that also has a note in common, but our hand is going to have to move a little bit further to get to that inversion. So again, there isn't a right answer or a wrong answer necessarily, but there is the closest answer. And the closest inversion to our C chord is going to be this middle one here, the CFA. So we go from our C chord, CEG, to CFA. So let's take that to the piano and see what that's going to look like and sound like. So on the piano, if we start with our C chord, and then we go to CFA as our next inversion, do you notice how smooth that is? Try that. Your hand doesn't have to move far like it did when you played the F up here. It just had to move a little bit to play the CFA. So there's another inversion you could use, as we talked about. You could use ACF. You could go here. So you could go from the C here to the ACF here. And that's close as well. But I think this sounds really nice, and I think it's closer. So we're going to stick with that inversion for now. Now, let's say we're playing Alleluia. So Alleluia uses the C, and then it goes to the F, and then it goes to a G chord after this. So let's see what inversion of the G chord we could use. We have the G that is that one. Okay. Or we have that one. That's pretty close. We could go just right here. Or let's keep on our F chord here. Let's say we have a G. We have that inversion, which we could play. That's pretty close as well. So either one of those, either this one or this one, we could play for our G chord. And that would be a nice close inversion. So for Alleluia, we start with a C, then go to F, G, and back to C. So we could start like this. C, F, G, and back to C. Or if we want to get fancy, we could do C, F, G, and then we could do the inversion of C that's up here. And that would be cool. So let's try this in Alleluia. I'm going to play it and I'm going to show you what it sounds like and looks like when you use chord inversions. Alleluia, 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 Alleluia. Did you hear how smooth my playing was when I play it that way? It's the voicing is much better because your hand isn't having to move all the way up and down. You're able to stay close and it sounds very melodic and very pretty. Now the challenge is to apply that to the songs that you've already worked on.